Alright, today I'm going to talk to you about polymer clay and how to make beads from it. So what is polymer clay? Polymer clay is actually not clay that comes from the ground. It's a form of plastic. And a couple things about storing it. I want to make sure I have an airtight container, and I want to make sure that I don't keep it in a hot place. It will dry it out and make it go bad. So it's basically a form of plastic. We're just going to bake it at a low temperature when we're happy with what we've got. A couple other things to work with here. I've got a nice clean surface. I've got a paper towel sitting here. Got a clean fettling knife that I'm going to be using, and having all that stuff clean, no dust, no dirt, that sort of thing is going to be really helpful in the end product. So what I've done here is started off by picking 4 colors that I like together as a whole, and now what I'm going to do is kind of separate into pairs that I want to marble together. So this is marbling, getting 2 colors to blend together. So I'm picking 2 pairs that I would like to go together for that. So I'm feeling like a beachy theme here. So I got a coral color, some sand, and some ocean and ocean wave colors, so that's what I'm going to go with. So I'm going to set these off to the side and work on marbling these together. The clay will start off by being a little stiff and will soften as you warm it in your hand. So I'm going to kind of roll a coil this way in my hand to warm it, and then I can roll it out more on my clean work surface here. So I'm going to roll it out to about 6 inches long, try to get it pretty even, and then I'll repeat that with the other color. And try to get them to be about the same. Okay, gotta go a little bit more with the other one. Alright, so for marbling, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put these together in a pair, and essentially I'm going to twist them together, and I'm going to do that by rolling my hands in opposite directions. And sometimes the ends don't twist quite as much as the rest of it does, so I can just take that by hand and twist it. Now I'm going to roll that together, and again, the warmth from my hands will make this more pliable and make those pieces stick together. So got kind of a candy cane look. So I'm going to continue marbling by folding it in half, twisting it together, and kind of doing the ends by hand, and keep rolling. And only you can decide when you think it's marbled enough. But I'm going to continue folding in half, twisting, and rolling together. Okay, I feel like I'm getting pretty close. And if I keep going with the marbling, I'm actually going to end up blending these 2 colors together. So I don't really want to do that, but you can see that on this bead here. This one was just a blue and a white blended together in that spot, and you can see we don't have that really deep or separated marbling like we do on this one here. It's a little more blended together. So I think I'm going to stop with that one, and I'm going to go ahead and marble the other one. Okay, I've got both of my different colors marbled together. Now what I'm going to do is divide each of these into 12 pieces. So I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to cut it in half again, making fourths. Now each of these pieces I need to divide by 3. So I like to just kind of make a line on there first. That way I can kind of move it if I feel like it's not evenly divided. And then I'll go ahead and chop those up. Once I get these all chopped up, I'm going to start rolling these into a ball. So I'm going to roll these into a ball, and what I'm going to do is place it, kind of squish it a little bit so that it's more in the right proportions to a ball. Now I'm going to just gently roll it in a circle in my hand. And sometimes I'll end up with a little football shape. If that happens, just try again. They don't need to be perfect right now. What I'm going to do is just kind of get a feel for what they all look like when they're rolled up, and then I'm going to pick some that I like just like this, and then I'm going to pick some that I'm going to go ahead and modify. Okay, so from here I should have 24 beads, and what I'm going to go through is just examining each of them and finding the ones that I just really like the way they are. So that one's not bad, and then I'm just going to pick the ones that I'm not crazy about, and those are the ones I'm going to modify. So this one I'm not crazy about, so I'm going to modify that one, and I like that one. I'm going to keep that one just the way it is. So I'm looking for a couple that need some work. Yeah, this one's kind of plain. I'm going to modify that one. So first way I'm going to show you to modify is by taking these. This is why we picked colors that all went well together. I'm going to take these two beads and I'm going to combine them into each other. So I'm going to cut this one in half. I'm going to cut this one in half. Now I'm going to cut that into half and half again. So turn this so you can maybe see a little bit better. So I'm trying to cut the remaining section in half. So I'm going to basically sandwich these together. So I'm going to take the end of this one and the end of that one, and they're going to trade places. And this one's going to go with this bead. And I'm going to make a mismatched sandwich out of them. So once I have it like that, now I'm going to re-roll. So I'm going to gently just kind of squeeze it together a little bit and roll it up. And I'm going to get a blend of the two. So I've taken two beads that I wasn't crazy about and made something new out of them. And I will continue to roll that until I don't really see the seam on there. So the heat from my hand will help roll it around, and that will get rid of that seam. Sometimes you just got to take it and blend it a little bit. Okay, so got two new beads out of that. I'm going to show you a couple more ways. So I'm going to take two beads again that I'm just not super thrilled with. Yeah, I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to take another one. This one here. I'm going to take those two. So for this one, I'm going to kind of do the same thing I'd done before, except I'm just going to mark the halfway point, and then I'm going to cut a fourth off of that one. Same thing for this one. I'm going to mark the halfway point, and then I'm going to cut a fourth off of that one. So marking halfway just kind of helps me. So I'm going to re-roll these around. And same thing here. Okay, and I'm going to add the opposite color to it. So the way I'm going to add the opposite color to it is roll a teeny tiny little coil. So it's going to end up needing to be, this is the great thing about polymer clay, I could never roll a coil this skinny with regular clay. going to need to be at least 3 inches long. Okay, and now I'm going to take this bead here, and you can do a couple things with it. You can just wrap, try to go around it like this in a spiral, and I'm not pushing real hard just in case I need to adjust where that goes, but that worked out pretty good. So now I'm gonna just squish that stuff on there and roll it out again, and I have a new kind of bead. I'm gonna do the same thing with this one. Instead of doing a spiral on this one, I'm just gonna kind of wind it back and forth and kind of randomly go around it. Again, not pushing completely down until I'm happy with the placement, because I want that to go that way just a little bit more. So there's the new one. Stick that down and roll it up. And there's another type. I just wanted to show you on this one a little bit. It's real important to have clean tools. I know we're blending between colors here, but you can see a discolored spot on that one because it's got a little bit of blue in there. If it's really important to me that that be clean, that's why I've got a little paper towel here handy. I can clean off my work spot and clean off any of this that's accidentally stuck on the bead there. So I've got 2 more beads picked out. This time I'm going to cut just a tiny bit off. So again, if I mark the halfway point, mark a quarter, I'm just taking off a tiny little bit. So I'm not even going to take a quarter off. Just going to take just a little bit off of it. Same thing with this one. I'm going to take just a little bit off of it. And these little pieces, I'm going to re-roll the big part back into a ball. And these little pieces I'm going to roll out into little slabs. So I'm going to use the handle of my fettling knife here. Roll that out. Reap it off. And I'm going to put these little patchwork pieces on here. So when I'm doing this, if I've got an ugly spot I want to cover or a plain spot I want to cover, that's what I'm doing with this. So I'm just putting it on there, grabbing hold of just a little bit and pulling it out. And if you get to the point where you're happy with it the way it is, you don't have to keep adding. You don't have to use the whole little piece, but it will make them slightly different sizes if you don't add the whole thing back on there. So I'm pretty happy with that, and I'll just go back and re-roll that. And that's what that one looks like. Okay, so next thing I'm going to talk to you about is poking holes in these so that we can string them. So I've got a bead that I like the way it is, and I would want this part facing out on a necklace. So I want to avoid putting my hole through that spot, but I've got a spot over here that is not as attractive. So I'm going to, again, face this part out, and I'm going to take my toothpick, try to insert it right in the side, and I'm going to twist it as I go through. Kind of just double checking, making sure that I'm aiming and coming out the other side. So when it comes out the other side, I'm going to stop. And if I leave it like that, you can see that part's raised up a little bit. So I'm going to bring it back through this side. Again, twisting until I can put that right through the middle. So this is my last chance to really adjust the shape. So I was barely holding on to it as I was doing that. And so my goal there was not to continue to squish it. So I'm happy with that bead as it is. So I can kind of twist and pull this toothpick out, and that bead is ready to fire. So I'll continue poking holes and adjusting the rest of them. When it's time to harden these, when you're happy with the way they are, you're going to get a little pan. You're going to put a little aluminum foil on it, lay these out on there, and you're going to bake for 275 degrees for 20 minutes. Make sure you ask for permission before you use the oven. If you're not able to do that or would prefer to bring them to me to bake, just gently place them in your plastic bag. Make sure they're not going to get squished. You can put them in some sort of other container, more heavy-duty container or something where they're going to be safe, and bring them to me and I will bake them for you. Go team.